The voice crackled softly through the dim hum of the spaceship's control room. "This is George Taylor," he began, speaking into the recorder mounted to the console. "6 months in deep space, at least for us. Back on Earth, it's been over 700 years." The cabin was quiet, save for the distant groan of metal expanding and contracting in the cold silence of space. Taylor paused. He stared out the thick viewport into a vast ocean of black, interrupted only by the cold light of distant stars. He leaned back in his seat and continued recording. "I knew what we signed up for. I knew the math. I have no regrets." He stopped again and let that sit in the silence. Then he added, "The people who launched us, they're all dead now, centuries in the grave. We've outlived them by 1,000 lifetimes just by coasting through time at light speed." He stood up, stretched, and walked slowly past the stasis pods. 3 cryogenic chambers lined the narrow corridor. He checked the readings as he did every day. Dodge, Landon, Stewart, still alive, still frozen in their sleep. A crew of strangers now bound by time more than trust. He lingered by Stewart's pod a moment longer. Her vitals flickered green. Her face was calm. As he returned to the console, Taylor spoke again, softer. "Out here, you think a lot. You wonder what kind of world we're going back to, if there's anything left to return to." His voice grew more distant. "You wonder if people are still fighting over land or money or skin, if they're still fattening themselves while their neighbors starve. You look out into the abyss long enough and you realize how small all that is, how small you are." Then came the alarm. The ship jolted, just enough to make Taylor grip the railing. He rushed to the navigation console. Something was wrong. They were descending. The ship's AI was initiating an automated re-entry protocol. He checked the star charts. Nothing matched. No known systems. No planned approach. It was happening too fast. Taylor sprinted down the corridor, checking on the crew. Dodge and Landon were still secure, but Stewart's pod, something was wrong. The chamber's integrity alert was blinking red. Her vitals were flatlined. She had aged. Her body lay shriveled and still, as though she had lived an entire life while the others slept. "Damn it," Taylor muttered, slamming the control panel. He had no time to mourn. The ship was shaking now. Lights flickered overhead. An impact was imminent. He pulled the emergency protocol lever. The ship punched into a thick atmosphere and plummeted. Alarms screamed. Artificial gravity flickered and failed. Taylor barely made it to his harness before they hit water. Hard. Metal groaned. The lights blew out. Water surged through the lower deck. The impact awoke Dodge and Landon, both disoriented, confused, alive. "Get up!" Taylor shouted. "Ship's taking on water." Dodge was the first to move, coughing as he unstrapped himself. Landon staggered to his feet. "Where's Stewart?" Taylor didn't answer. His silence said enough. They were moving now, fast, the cabin tilting as the ship listed to one side. Water was ankle-deep and rising. "Read the atmosphere," Taylor ordered, shoving a handheld scanner into Dodge's hands. "I need to know if we can breathe out there." Dodge wiped the screen and ran the scan. "Oxygen levels, normal. Pressure's good. It's breathable." Landon struggled with the communications panel. "We should try a signal," he said. "Anything we can get out." Taylor nodded, but Landon's face fell as he tapped the dark console. "It's dead. Whole system's fried." "Then we're on our own," Taylor said. "Suit up. Abandoned ship." They scrambled for supplies, sealed containers, emergency gear, food, water. They launched the raft, loaded what they could, and bailed out of the wreck. As the spacecraft sank behind them, Taylor turned back for one last look. The Earth clock still ticked above the hatch. The numbers burned into his mind. Year 3978. They drifted for hours, maybe longer. The sun, or whatever star lit this world, was pale and cold. Landon asked Taylor where they were. Somewhere in Orion, Taylor guessed. You're guessing, Landon snapped. I'm leading, Taylor replied. Eventually, they found land, a jagged shore of black sand and crumbling stone. They pulled the raft ashore and took stock. Their supplies were limited, 3 days' worth of food and water, maybe 4 if they rationed hard. Taylor turned to Landon, voice flat. We have 72 hours to find life or we die. No one argued. Dodge took a soil sample and ran a scan. Nothing. Won't support crops, no nutrients. It's dead. Then we keep moving, Taylor said. They set out into the strange terrain. The land was foreign. Rocky outcrops twisted into unnatural shapes. Landslides littered their path. The air was dry, the sky overcast with a dull copper haze. The silence was absolute. They walked for hours without speaking, each man trapped in his thoughts. Finally, Taylor broke the quiet. You wanted glory, he said to Landon. And you wanted to run, Landon shot back. Run from Earth, from people. Taylor stopped walking. He looked over the rocks, the ruined cliffs stretching to the horizon. I came, he said slowly, because I had to believe there was something better out here, something better than man. And with that, they walked on, deeper into the unknown. The terrain was changing. Jagged stone gave way to smoother formations, signs of water erosion carving canyons through what had once been a seabed. For hours, the 3 surviving astronauts picked their way through the arid landscape. The sun hovered low in the sky, casting long shadows across the sand. Time was slipping through their fingers. Only 2 days of rations left, and not a single sign of intelligent life. Then Dodge spotted it. A sprout pushing up through a crack in the stone. A single green stem, alive in a wasteland. They crowded around it, stunned. If there's one, Taylor said, there's more. Hope returned, fragile but real. They followed the trickle of plant life down into a shallow valley where the dry silence gave way to the distant sound of falling water. The rocks opened into a clearing filled with mist and strange trees. They found a waterfall spilling into a deep pool surrounded by greenery. For the first time since their crash, they smiled. They stripped off their uniforms and dove into the water. The cold stung, but the feeling of weightlessness was a relief after so much dry heat and walking. They laughed. They were alive. They might actually survive this. Then Landon froze. Footprints, he said, pointing at the muddy bank. Humanoid, barefoot. Not theirs. In an instant, the mood shifted. They grabbed their clothes, but their packs were gone. Equipment, weapons, food, everything. Gone. Taylor found a piece of torn cloth snagged on a branch. Another piece up ahead. Whoever, or whatever, had taken their things had left a trail. They followed it quickly, cautiously, moving through the thickening trees until the trail led them to a strange sight. Human-like figures crouched and watching from behind the rocks. Naked, filthy, their hair long and tangled. They didn't speak, just stared with wide animal eyes. They're human, Landon said, confused. But they're not like us, Taylor muttered. One of them bolted. The others followed. The astronauts didn't chase. They didn't need to. These people were primitive. They might steal, but they didn't pose a threat. Taylor even smiled. If this is the best this planet's got, he said, we're in charge. Then the sound hit. A horn? Number something louder. Roaring and sharp. The feral humans panicked and scattered, fleeing into the trees. Instinct told Taylor to run, and he obeyed. The sky seemed to split open with chaos, screams, crashing hooves, and the crack of gunfire. Through the trees, shapes emerged, figures on horseback, wearing dark leather uniforms, rifles in hand. But it was their faces that froze Taylor in his tracks. They were apes, riding horses, hunting humans, and they were organized. Taylor dove into a thicket as nets flew through the air, entangling the fleeing ferals. Dodge was running too, but a shot caught him in the back. He fell instantly, motionless in the dirt. Landon disappeared behind a ridge, captured. Taylor pushed on, weaving through trees, breath ragged. He heard the apes closing in. A shot rang out and pain seared through his throat. He fell, gasping, hands to his neck. His world blurred, darkened. Before he passed out, he saw one last image, a group of apes standing proudly over a pile of dead humans, posing for a photograph while one of them, holding the camera, cheerfully said, "Smile." When Taylor woke, he was inside a cage. His throat was bandaged. He tried to speak but could only manage a rasp. Outside, more humans, feral, silent, pressed against the bars, staring blankly. He wasn't one of them, but he was caged all the same. An ape approached, female, inquisitive. She was dressed like a doctor, tools hanging from her belt. She examined Taylor's clothes, noting the stitching, the material, clearly unfamiliar with it. "This one's different," she said to another ape. "Look at the fabric. The shoes." Her name was Dr. Zira, and she wasn't like the hunters. She was curious. Later, in the open air of a pen, Zira and her fiancé Cornelius came to see him again. Taylor couldn't speak yet, but he had an idea. In the dirt, he scratched a message. His name. Another human, jealous or confused, scrambled forward and erased it, provoking a scuffle. Guards intervened, dragging Taylor away. But Zaius, the chief defender of the faith, had seen the writing before it was wiped clean. His face darkened. He walked to the mark, stared for a long moment, then erased it with the tip of his staff. Back in his cage, Taylor finally managed to steal Zira's notepad. He scrawled, "My name is Taylor." When she saw it, she froze. He could write. He was intelligent. Zira took Taylor to her quarters. There, he told her everything: his ship, his crew, Earth, the crash. He wrote and wrote. Cornelius read his words but scoffed. "It's a trick, clever mimicry." But Taylor challenged him. He folded a paper plane and launched it. The paper glided across the room. Cornelius stared in disbelief. "I told you," Taylor wrote. "I flew." Zira pointed to a region on a map. "This is where you say you landed. That's the Forbidden Zone." Cornelius stiffened. "No one goes there." Zira reminded him of his own theory, that apes evolved from primitive humans, that Taylor might be proof. But Cornelius backed off. "The scrolls are clear. Apes were created, divine, pure. The idea of evolution is blasphemy." Zira pushed harder. "You found artifacts in the Forbidden Zone, things no ape could have made." "They're older than the scrolls," he admitted, "which means the scrolls are wrong." The room fell silent. Then Zaius entered. He picked up Taylor's paper plane, watched it drift in the air, then crushed it and threw it to the ground. Later, Taylor heard guards whispering outside his cage. Zaius had ordered brain surgery to study Taylor's vocal cords. Taylor attacked when they came for him. He fought past the guards, sprinting into the open. He ran through streets, markets, temples, through a museum where humans were preserved like animals. He stopped cold. Dodge, stuffed, displayed. A plaque labeled him like a specimen. Something snapped in Taylor. He ran again but was caught. As guards pinned him down, he screamed. His throat, finally healed, released the words, "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!" Everyone froze. A human had spoken, not grunted, not mimicked. Spoken. Taylor was dragged back to his cage. Inside, Nova was waiting, another silent human. He sat beside her and told her about Earth, about cities, oceans, sky. He made her laugh. He taught her to smile. They were summoned to a hearing, Zira, Cornelius, and Taylor. The tribunal of elder apes accused Zira of tampering with Taylor's brain. They accused Cornelius of heresy for suggesting apes evolved from man. Taylor tried to speak in his defense but was ignored. So he wrote. Cornelius read his words aloud, their crash, their journey, the hunt, the cages. The council demanded proof. They showed him Landon. Taylor recoiled. Landon's eyes were dull. He had been lobotomized. They cut him, Taylor growled. You monsters. Zaius calmly responded. He was never able to speak. The surgery saved him. Taylor didn't believe it. Cornelius argued one last time. If Taylor wasn't from another world, then he was from here, part of mankind's forgotten past. The proof was in the Forbidden Zone. Zaius rejected it all. Taylor was sentenced to disposal. As he was dragged away, he caught Zaius's eye and saw fear. Not of Taylor the man, but of what he represented, what he might uncover. Taylor understood then. This wasn't about faith or science. This was about control. Night had fallen by the time the knock came. Zira's nephew appeared at the cage in silence, glancing around before slipping Taylor the key. No words, just a nod. The lock clicked open. Taylor stepped into the shadows of the compound. Nova was waiting, wide-eyed but calm, trusting him without question. He took her hand. They ran. Zira and Cornelius met them behind the research complex, already packed and waiting. They had no destination, only a plan: to return to the Forbidden Zone, to the site where Cornelius had unearthed what no ape wanted to believe. There, they hoped, lay the proof to redeem them, and perhaps save Taylor. But Taylor had bigger questions now. Who was really on trial? Him, or the entire illusion of this world? They rode under moonlight, their stolen horses kicking up dust as they crossed the silent, cursed landscape. At the entrance of the cave, Cornelius lit a lantern. Time was short. Zaius would come, and he would not come alone. Inside, the cave was cool and dry. Artifacts were laid out in rows, meticulously catalogued remnants of a forgotten civilization. False teeth, a pair of eyeglasses, rusted surgical instruments. Cornelius lifted a piece of shattered metal and held it up to the light. This is carbon dated at over 1,000 years older than our earliest scrolls. Taylor examined a faded book, the language familiar. English. His language. Cornelius explained that the cave had been sealed by ancient lava flows. The artifacts had been trapped in perfect preservation. Zira pulled out the final piece, small, pink, and chipped, a child's doll. She placed it in Taylor's hands. He turned it over. The doll's eyes fluttered open. It spoke a single word. Mama. The sound echoed through the cave like a ghost. Taylor stared at it, horror dawning in his eyes. This belonged to a child, he whispered. A human child. No ape made this. Before they could speak further, the sound of hooves thundered outside. Zaius arrived, flanked by armed guards. Taylor grabbed a rifle and leveled it at the lawgiver. Back off, he barked. The guards hesitated. Let them in, Taylor said. You want truth, Zaius? It's here. It's all here. Zaius entered reluctantly. His eyes flicked across the artifacts, unmoved. Cornelius presented each piece, stating its function, its age, its implications. Zaius dismissed them all, unwilling to see what stood before him. Then Zira handed him the doll. It spoke again. Mama. Zaius flinched just for a moment. Taylor stepped forward. You're lying to everyone. You've always known the truth. Zaius looked at him, his expression unreadable. Fine, Taylor said, lowering his voice. Then tell me, what are you so afraid of? Zaius sighed. He turned to the guards and ordered them away. And then he spoke. The Forbidden Zone he said slowly, was once a paradise. A great civilization existed there, human civilization. Your kind made war until there was nothing left. Cities burned, oceans poisoned, only silence remained. Taylor stared at him. So what happened? The apes rose up? No, Zaius said. The apes inherited a dead world. He paused. We didn't rise, you fell. Taylor's grip on the rifle tightened. Why cover it up? Because the truth is a disease, Zaius said. It spreads. It corrodes belief. You saw what your kind did, and yet you want to bring it back. Taylor shook his head. I want to understand. Zaius stepped forward. Then go. Take a horse, provisions, ride into the Forbidden Zone, find your answers. But remember, what you learn you may not live with. Taylor considered this, then nodded. He turned to Cornelius and Zira. Thank you for believing, for seeing. Zira reached out, touching his arm. Good luck, Taylor. He mounted the horse. Nova climbed up behind him, and without looking back, they rode. They followed the shoreline for hours, the ocean black and endless beside them. The landscape grew stranger, more broken. The land itself seemed to mourn something lost long ago. Then Taylor saw it, half buried in sand, rising like a scar from the earth, an iron arm, a broken crown, a torch. He froze, slid off the horse, walked forward in silence, each step heavier than the last. It was the Statue of Liberty, what was once a symbol of hope, freedom, promise, now twisted and decayed, its face eroded by time and war. Only ruin remained. Taylor fell to his knees. You finally did it, he whispered, voice cracking. You maniacs! He pounded the sand, fists raw, grief erupting from his chest. You blew it up! Damn you all to hell! Behind him, Nova stood quiet, unable to grasp what he had found. But Taylor knew. This wasn't another world. It had been Earth all along, and mankind, his people, had destroyed it. There was no alien race, no superior planet. Only the final echo of humanity's failure, buried beneath the weight of centuries. The terrible truth had always been beneath his feet. The sky turned gray, waves lapped at the broken monument, and George Taylor, the last man of Earth, screamed into the ruins.